Tennessee is going to depend on a running back by committee group. You can go ahead and bank on that, brought to you by a commercial bank. Why? Because I don't believe they'll hand everything over to Peyton Lewis. I don't believe Deshaun Bishop is big enough to take the pounding of carrying the ball as a primary back throughout the entire season. So I think they're going to go running back by committee. Now, the question is, I think we can agree those are the top two guys. What if one of those guys goes down? And then you might have to lean on one more than you would have during your preseason preparation.
Yes, I totally agree. I think one of the big things is if you're Tennessee with your running back situation is you don't know if you have a Dylan Sampson again this year, who again just totally threw me off with how good he was last year. And not that Peyton Lewis isn't special, but half of Dylan Sampson's success was how hard he ran. And so with that in mind, I think you would much rather go by committee on this. The question is, are they going to go by committee with 2 backs or 3 backs? Like, is Star Thomas a serious contender in this?
I don't think so. And really, you look at Tennessee and what they have done under Josh Heupel. Caleb, let's go back. Jabari Small and Jalen Wright shared a lot of carries. Then you had Jalen Wright was kind of the primary guy. Then you had last season, Dylan Sampson was the primary guy with Deshaun Bishop as the changeup. I just don't think they want to go any deeper than 2 deep. And I think they're very comfortable if they find one they like Sampson or Wright in that particular year, of leaning on one guy more than the rest of the crew.
Yeah, no, I agree. They want to make it more like 2022 when it was Jabari Small and Jalen Wright in 2023. They really wanted to do that. So I think that Jabari's I think it's probably 2. I think you're right. 2 is probably the way they're going to go with this. Which 2 they use could be a debate. Like, I think it seems pretty clear to Deshaun Bishop and Peyton Lewis at this point. But remember, Dave, in 2022, while they had Jabari Small and Jalen Wright, they did bring in Lynn J. Dixon for a week to see if he was going to work.
Yeah, I thought that was a big waste of time. And he ended up booted from the team, less than a week. So now I don't think you're going to see Star Thomas be much of a factor. I mean, if I gave you the over under of, let's say, 35.5 carries that mattered, I'm not talking about trash time. I mean, would you think that Star Thomas, the third tailback, gets more than 35.5 carries, real carries, first half carries?
35.5 carries for the whole year?
Yeah, but I'm just talking about real carries. I'm not talking about garbage time.
No. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think he will. Honestly, I think he could get 30. I think he'll get more than 35.5.
But we'll go ahead and bank on it that Tennessee is going to use a running back by committee. Is that where you are?
Yep, I'm with you. They're going to use it by committee.
Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Better.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions.
All right, so Caleb, the more we dive into this, the more I have a little bit of a concern, because running backs get hurt all the time in the SEC. What happens if Tennessee loses Bishop or Lewis? Where are they? They're at Starr and Dwayne Morris. That doesn't seem like a good place to be.
No, and Dwayne Morris is probably not going to be playing a lot this year. You're right. So it's Star Thomas of I looking at his track record at Duke. I mean, it's still hard to me to see why they added him. Honestly, he wasn't that special of a running back when he played last year. I mean, he averaged, I believe, 4 yards a carry at Duke. So it was weird why they added him, but it felt like they just want a body and they want to have enough depth to a certain degree. I think I mean, the more I'm looking at this, I think it's just so obviously going to be Peyton Lewis and Deshaun Bishop. But I think this year, here's what I think is happening. They're more committed to making sure they have two backs at all time. And last year with Peyton Lewis going down, they had to go, not going down, but he played, he was banged up the first half of the season. They had to go a lot more with Dylan Sampson. I think they want to make sure they're not in a situation where they have to rely on just one running back again.
Let me turn to the message board for a second. Derek says Starr might be the number 2. Honestly, if he's the number 2, has Tennessee got a problem? That would either mean Bishop or Lewis either can't play or hurt.
Don't necessarily think means they have a problem.
I do.
I mean, I think he could work his way in.
He's not as dependable as Bishop because he doesn't know the system. He's a year one guy, and we just discussed how year one guys don't have an impact under Josh Heupel, and he's not as talented as Peyton Lewis. To me, he's a big tweener.
I mean, you don't think Deshaun Bishop can be a bit of a tweener too?
Well, I don't mean a tweener in terms of size. I mean a tweener in terms of a dependable, experienced player or an up-and-coming talent. I think that Starr Thomas is somewhere in between. I don't think he has experience in the system, and I don't think he's nearly as talented as Peyton Lewis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't either, but I'm like, he could be as talented as Deshaun Bishop. And now you don't think he has the experience of Bishop. I understand that. Running back's not necessarily similar to receiver in the system, too. Running back's actually an easier thing to pick up.
Okay, now Travis says it's going to be Bishop number 1, and then Derek says Bishop's a walk-on, y'all. Okay, a lot of truth to both of those. Don't be surprised if it's Bishop number 1, at least to start the season, because this coaching staff is very loyal. However, that being said, he is still a walk-on. Now, walk-ons aren't what they once were. Bishop would have been placed on scholarship last year at some point. Probably right before preseason camp, the way the old things worked, or right before the season during preseason camp. That doesn't happen anymore because what does Bishop care? They could just give him more NIL money and he can pay for his own school.
No, yeah, exactly. Like he's not like
scholarship limitations, just silly nowadays.
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that. I totally agree. Like scholarship limitations make very little sense because it's coming down to money anyway. And I mean, I wonder if there's going to be someone's going to moneyball this situation to even figure out how they could add like 100 to 115 players on their roster of value. Again,
I think Michigan already did it under Jim Harbaugh.
They might have already done it. Let's take Nebraska for a minute. Steroids aside, Nebraska's powerhouse program in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, Dave, you know this. They were known for having such a great walk-on program. Why? There were no limits on the players on the roster. So Nebraska would go like 150 deep and run all of those players out when they were running the triple option at different times, just to wear you down.
And Paul Bear Bryant was famous for giving swimming scholarships to players that would then play football. So, I mean, this managing the scholarship number is not new. This is just a new way to do it, and that's stroke a guy big check.
I never thought about that. Did Tennessee do that with track and field stars back in the day? The guys that went to Tennessee to play track?
No, because they changed that. They changed the rule in the late 70s, I believe. And that is, if you're on football, you have to be a football guy.
Oh, wow, that's discriminatory towards football players. I'm just saying they don't do that with other sports guys on scholarship. Because this is the best way to manipulate it. And like, I mean, if you're a guy like Josh Heupel who runs a lot of tempo, that's kind of an advantage if you can do that, because then you could like Kim Caldwell it and run a bunch of different players out at different times. So I don't know. I don't know. Are at running backs, Dave, for Heupel's system, are bodies or talent more important in Josh Heupel's system?
At what position?
Running back.
Probably bodies, as long as they run hard.
I think so too. I'm more on the line of bodies than talent.
I mean, Jabari Small had great success. Was he a great player? No,
solid player, not great.
Jalen Wright, he was very solid. He was close to great. We'll see what happens with Dylan Sampson, but it wouldn't surprise me if Dylan Sampson maxed out at an Alvin Kamara type of career, which means you're really good. I don't know that it means he's an elite player, even though he's SEC Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, well, I mean, Josh Heupel showed what you do with a player like Dylan, with a player like Alvin Kamara, Butch Jones. But yeah, I agree. Dylan Sampson was very, very uniquely special. Also, we also have to talk about this, and this is what's going to stand out with the running backs this year. A lot of Sampson's success, Dave, had to do with how much teams sold out to make sure the deep ball wasn't going to beat them last year. I mean, they played that 3-3-5 with the high safeties all season long, and everybody's so scared of that Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hyatt season in 2022. I mean, have you noticed the way teams are playing Tennessee? They're just doing everything they can to stop that and make sure that doesn't happen again.
Well,
And
along those lines, when Tennessee comes out in the 2 tight end look, how many people did they catch unaware because they're worried, as you mentioned, about that deep ball throw? So you run up there in 2 tights, you've got a blocking advantage, you've got a different look altogether. You should be able to run the football even better. So I wonder how many times, if you went back and looked, Tennessee trotted out the double tights look and surprised somebody with an extra defensive back on the field.
I agree. That's a really good question, actually, because it was kind of interesting how they decided to do that. And so with the 2 tight ends look, and with
I guarantee you it took Nebraska by surprise.
Nebraska.
I'm sorry, Oklahoma by surprise.
Oklahoma. Yeah. No. It definitely did. It absolutely did.
It really took Nebraska by surprise because they weren't even in the game.
Yeah, that's true. No, I think teams committing to that 3-3-5. Now, look, I think Josh Heupel had to adjust to it at times. I don't think he was ready for Arkansas to stay in it so long. And so they ran the ball consistently against Arkansas. The only reason Arkansas won that game was because some of the pass protection on the outside and then a fluke penalty by Jordan Ross on a punt cost them. But yeah, I think in general, I think that Tennessee, they want bodies at tailback, but I think they're aware that they're going to have to. I think they're prepared for the fact that running backs might take a little more punishment this year, because I don't think teams are going to leave such gaping holes for them this year the way they left for them last year. They were almost, I mean, Dave, let's be honest, because they were so scared of the deep ball, they almost willingly surrendered 5 yards to Tennessee every time on the ground, didn't they?
Yes. Now, I want to be real clear. I want to take a couple steps back. Some people are wondering if I'm criticizing the Star Thomas pickup. No, I actually think that's a really strong pickup. I think he's a solid player at the power 4 level, power 5 level. I think he's a very solid player that's had productivity, that's had some success. I just think it's like the NFL and free agency. He's not going to look at Tennessee, no matter what they offer, and say, oh boy, there's a place to go get a lot of playing time. Now, maybe he does, because maybe that's what they sold him, actually, now that I think about it. You got Bishop, who's undersized. You've got Peyton Lewis, who's unproven. Maybe Star Thomas was sold that he would be the star.
I mean, I couldn't imagine him thinking that. And if they made that promise, that's a dumb promise to make. Like that, how little do they believe in Peyton Lewis then?
Well, but you don't tell Peyton Lewis that. You just tell him you've got a great opportunity to play a lot.
Yeah. I want to address this. A lot of people are talking about this. I mean, how much do you make of? I've been hearing Tennessee's been using the pistol some in camp, and Derek just brings it up. Pistol. They ran the pistol at Duke, but do you think that they brought in Star Thomas because of his familiarity with the pistol, and do you think there's a reason they're switching over to that some?
I don't think you do it because of one player, but I do believe that if I'm Josh Heupel, I'm looking every single offseason at how to adjust this offense, because as explosive as it was in 2022, it was pretty simplistic. So I think that there's an ability to figure it out, and you better have a changeup. Daniel says, totally random, but Dave and Caleb, this is my new favorite Vols podcast. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, because I mean, Dave, we talk about Josh Heupel and adjustment all the time. And, the 12 personnel last year was a big deal. But, like, if Josh Heupel is running the pistol in spring camp, which I've heard reports that he is a little bit, do we think – I mean, that's a huge testament to him on this. And, look, I think one of the reasons
you would do – more than 2 tights.
No, I agree. I agree, not anymore. But it also – here's the thing. That also would suggest that he's trying to do more A-gap run plays next year, because remember, if you're more of a run-oriented offense, it's a handoff to the running back from your side is not the best way to get the running back going, right? It's best for them to be running from behind you and taking the ball and to pick up a level of steam. So I think that, I mean, you almost wonder, do Do you think that he's thinking even more of having even more of a rushing attack this year than he had last year?
Possibly.